Hello, everyone. Um, Today we want to learn about the how to develop our problem statement and design a specification, the criteria and constraints that we have. That's actually success criteria, and also the engineering tools. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about. We are gonna go through three documents together. The first one, you can see that right now on the screen. It's like a workshop. I'm going to tell you how to work on it. The second one, it's going to be like the 4 pages, in fact. And then when you are going to, for each step of this one, when I'm talking about that, I'm going to tell you that, okay, so for this document, you have access to all of these Unlearn. So you're going to start writing on them. And then the last one is the assignment number 1, which is the result of this workshop. And the deadline of it is next week. So let's see the first one. Let's talk about the first part, which is the problem statement. So for all of these pages that we want to fill out together, that's my recommendation that each of you individually in your group work on it, think about it for like 10 minutes, and then start sharing together and discussing about that together. So the main focus for us is that we want to develop the good problem statement and design specification. We are going to have the brainstorming and the criteria and the engineering tools as well, because you would need to write it down in your for your assignment number 1. So let's see, what do we have here? You have access to this one on Learn as well. It's the workshop instruction, workshop number 1 instruction. So here it says that this will change over time with your problem statement and design statement. Everything that you're working on it, like for all of these assignments that I'm going to ask you, you need to go, for example, when you are on assignment number 3, you would need to go back to assignment number 1 and number 2 and like update it all the time. Because in your final proposal at the end of this term, you would need to give me the updated versions of all of these. It's like that we want to make it better and better over time that when we're working on it, right? Okay. So for problem statement, generally speaking, problem statement is like 2-3 sentences, and it's a very clear description of the issue that you have. It includes a vision, issue statements, and method used to solve the problem. I'm going to talk about the 5 W's, that it's very helpful and very straightforward to develop the problem statement. In fact, there are 5 W's that, like words with starting with W, that we would need to answer those questions, like those words, like what, where, these things, like when, and then make the problem statement out of it. So here it says that the 5 W's can be used to spark discussion about the problem. A problem statement expresses the words that will be used to keep the effort focused, and it should represent the solvable problem. Yeah. So, and here it's talking about the like it would be like 3 sentences, even 2 sentences. That would be awesome. You're going to talk about clear and concise description of the specific problem your design will address. Note that this is a narrow statement. Oh, okay. So, for example, don't claim that you will mitigate global warming. Don't have something really like huge that it's not clear that which part is really the problem that you want to work on it and solve it. For example, in this case, you can say that instead of saying that you will mitigate global warming by reducing greenhouse gas emission, you would say that, okay, you can claim that you will aim to reduce the greenhouse gas emission per unit production of product X. So we want to be very concise in our problem statement. And here is that consider the context. Make sure that you can provide some context to help understand the problem statement. This might talk about the industry. You can consider greenhouse gases emission mitigations, etc. And then Always think about that, who would be your customer, because you want to solve a problem for someone as an engineer in real world, right? So if you want to develop a good problem statement for your design project, definitely you would need to think about the customer. Can we have it like, can we satisfy a real customer in the world, like in the outside the university from it? And here's the consider who the customer is, because this one is going to help you define the need that you would have for your project. So look at here, it says how to write a problem statement. So you want to have your vision, you want to issue the statement, and you want to have your method in your brain, like when you are doing the brainstorming. So how to get started? To get started is like the, as I said, 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. So when you're looking at these page, mine is in, I printed them in the colors. I love colors. But you have the Word version of it available on Learn, so you can type it before sharing with your group members, like other group mates. So for the first question, who does the problem affect? Is it a specific group? Is it organizations? Like, who are the customers, in fact? And then the next one is what, and what are the boundaries of the problem, like workflow, geographic, any boundaries. What is the issue that you would need to consider? What is the impact of the issue? What would happen if you didn't solve the problem? You can think about all of these ones for the what part. For when, you can think about that. When does this issue occur? And when does it need to be fixed? It's going to help you a lot. If you answer this when, it's going to help you a lot on the understanding better situation of that. Okay, so what's going on? What's the time frame that for this problem they need to solve? Where is the issue occurring? Only in certain location, process, product? Is that like, just for example, you're working on something that is just related, it's going to happen for the in the oil refineries, or in the process of you want to be very clear at the what's the in fact, what's the process or what's the product that this problem is going to it's already happening and you want to fix it, right? Why is the next word that you want to consider. So it's that, why is it important that we fix this problem? What impact does it have on the business or customer? What impact does it have on all stakeholders, employees, suppliers, all of those ones? That's the why one. So it's that you want to find the reason that why you want to solve it. So with these ones, after you work on these 5 why questions, then you can develop better problem statements. So what I would recommend is that first try to write down these 5 words like this here, and then try to answer it before sharing with your friends, like in the group that you're working on, and then start discussing about that. So when you have this one, then try to develop, like write down your problem statement. It's good that in your problem statement, like let's say it's 3 sentences, but you would use all of these answers that you would have for that, for 5 W's. Okay, so that was the first one. The second one is the design specification. So we have 2 types of the design that we would say. You say that, okay, so you want to, in your design specification, you want to design a model, or you want to design an experiment. So while you want to write down your design specification, this is just based on my experience with the projects that we were working for the last few years. So start your statement with like that. You want to design a model which will do something, right? Or you want to design experiments that would do whatever your project is about that. So your capstone design project seeks to design an optimal solution to some problem. It is important that you clearly articulate this, since it's essential to the design process. If you start your sentences with that, We would like to design a model and rest of it, or we want to design an experiment to do this, and that. So in that case, it's going to be easier for you like to develop it. Your specification should be based on a needs assessment. So the needs assessment, we had it in the previous one, right? So in the problem statement, you were working on it. This describes the context of the problem you are solving. You should focus on the needs of the end user, like your customer. You should describe this context. So that's for the design specification. So you're gonna say that basically with the design specification, when I'm checking that, I always look to see that, is it exactly you want to design a model or experiments? With the situation that we have right now, with everything being online, so you can do any experiments, but you can claim it that you want to design an experiment. And as I said in the previous the video is in the overview of the course, you can come with the detailed plan that how would you do that experiment in the winter term, like in your 4B when you are back, and we can be at school face to face for working on the experiment. Okay. So the next one is the constraints and success criteria. So when you're looking at this paper, mine is below. So it's like that with the, you would say that constraint and criteria, but this criteria is success criteria. So for the constraint is the list of the tests your design must pass to solve the problem in the identified context. For example, you might want to reduce the effluent emissions to below the regulatory limit with a total capital cost less than some amount of the some number. And your design have to satisfy these constraints. So you will see that when we are on this second section of this course, when we are working on the design a lot together, I'm going to ask you, so whenever you are presenting something as your design in our design progress meetings, I will ask you that, okay, so do you think this design is going to satisfy the constraints that you defined? So it's very important that your design will satisfy those ones. The next one, the success criteria, is a little different. Success criteria, when you want to think about it, sometimes I see that students, they have questions that they would say that, okay, so constraints and criteria, they're very similar in their brain. They're completely different for this part of the project. When we say success criteria, it's like related to your objectives. So this is, as it's written here, this is a list of the things you would like that your design would achieve. You prefer a design that is reliable, it's a low cost, easy to operate. So think about it, even with low cost, easy to operate, all of these things that I say, it seems that there might be a conflict between these criteria. So as it's written here, usually some of these will be in the conflict with each other. For example, greater reliability may imply higher cost. So you would need to consider for these success criteria, it's very good that you would work on that with like in the reasonable amount of the time right now, because it's going to help you a lot for later. Now, one thing that you can do for the success criteria is that regarding to these conflicts that they have, you can come with the decision matrix, right? So we have different methods, but you can have one of the simplest one is that you would go with the decision matrix, and in your decision matrix, you would weight the criteria. For example, if cost is more important than reliability, you would give it a higher weight. Weights, they can be, you can have it as 0 as well. Even 0 is okay. It depends on the criteria, on the criteria that you're considering. And then decision made based on this approach can be explained and justified, like the approach is the decision matrix. Subjective judgments is still involved, and this is unavoidable in an open-minded design. The advantage of writing everything out is to bring clarity and transparency. So it's good that we're gonna writing down all of these things. So this is we talked about the constraints and criteria. I'm gonna mention these constraints criteria in the next phase when we are going. Then I'm like in a few minutes, I'm gonna share the assignment number 1. and I will tell you how to transfer the result of this workshop to that one. Okay, so the last thing here is engineering tools. So with the engineering tools is that like all of the softwares that we use, we call them engineering tools. You want to create, select, apply, adopt, and extend appropriate techniques, resource, and modern engineering tools to a range of engineering activities from simple to complex with an understanding of the associated limitations. It's very important that, for example, if you want to work with the Aspen, you consider the limitation of it from now. Like, for example, if you in you're working with Aspen and there is something that you cannot develop in Aspen, you would have a backup for it. You would think that, okay, so for this specific part, I would go to another software. Or for example, if you are working with the design of you want to design a model, and that's the optimization model, and let's say you're using MATLAB for optimization or GAMS software for optimization, you want to know the limitation that you would face with this optimization software. For example, can you use if your, let's say, problem is that mixed integer nonlinear optimization, can you use MATLAB for it, or is it better to use the GAMS software for it? So you need to select, first of all, you need to create all of these options that you would have, and then you would need to select among them, apply them, adopt them, all of the techniques that you would need to consider. But it's very important that you would consider the limitations here. So after working on these ones, like this is the last page, right? So with the engineering tools, what I want you to do, I want you to do that is that consider, let's say you're working on this one for like half an hour by yourself, and then you share that with your friends, and then you come up with something in common, and you try to have something like that. Is it something all of you are on the same page? Let's say you shared all of your comments and ideas, opinions about this. Then I would like you to think about your project again and consider for example, other aspects. Consider what about the economics? Go back to your, like, for example, let's say, problem statement, and see that, okay, so does it gonna really work with your project? Because when you go all over, like, go to these pages and you go down, it's like that you can say that, okay, so does it really gonna work with your project? Have you considered safety in it? Because we have the safety criteria as well, right? So it's like that, or sustainability. All of these things, try to think about them and then come back and fill these ones, like fix these ones. It's like that you're updating your answers to these four parts. So this is the, let's see, let me just see if I can bring the assignments. So this is, this was the instruction for that I want you to work on it. So for the, oh, and this is like the problem statement, the colorful version that I have here. So you're gonna work on, when you are reading the instruction, you're gonna work on these, like write down here and then share with your friends. So design specification, I added some explanation here as well, that while you're thinking about design specification, you would have this one in front of you, instead of going back to your instruction of the workshop. And it's the constraint and criteria, because so you would need to develop these ones here. Engineering tools, you can see that what's the engineering tools, that like the same things that I said. And here you look at here, it says, and now go back to the first page, and for your project, rewrite your answers considering which one is actually working your project. Consider the economics that you would have, the safety, sustainability, all of this. So the next thing that I want to show you is, let me just see, the assignment. I should do next week. Okay, So the assignment, which is, we are in the first phase of the project, like the initiation page. So these ones, like the group numbers, project manager, so it's good that one of you would be responsible for the, as a project manager. So it's very similar to the job that I'm doing right now with you. It's like that I try to make sure that you're on the correct path, and try to tell you the steps. Like I would say, okay, before going to the control phase, we want to make sure that we are good in the planning phase and the initiation phase. And then the team members, please write them down, your names here. Problem statement, the same things that you, so it's the result of this one. So when you work on your problem statement here, in your workshop, you're just going to write it down here. It's like going to be 2-3 sentences. Think about your project goals. So your project goals here, it's going to be easier to write it down for you because you already thought about your problem statement and all of the needs and the, like your customers and everything, right? The objectives, then any targets that you have, deadlines, the time-based, all of these ones, let's write them down here. Design specification. So here this is like a hint. It's like you want to start, like you want to design a model, or you want to design an experiment, or you can say you want to design both of them. So you want to design a model and then you would go and design the experiment for that model. Can be that one as well. It depends on the type of the project that you're working right now. So the next one is constraint. Here is the list of the tests you would need. Your design must pass, right? And success criteria is the outcome deliverables. So you're gonna write down the success criteria here. You would have your assumptions here. So what assumptions you would need to make. As I said, you're gonna update all of these things through your through the next like 3-4 months. And because of that, don't be very like, try not to be picky at all. So it's like, it's something come like as assumption, you think that you want to write down something that you think you would need to consider as an assumption, that's fine, write it down. I mean, later you can modify it. So here's the risk analysis, scores and risk mitigation for your project. Here's a safety criteria. So hazard, safety, all of those ones. You wanna, it's like a brainstorming parts for these ones. Engineering tools, we talked about that. Okay, so this one is the literature review. So with the literature review, I want you to work on the literature research. First of all, by the end of this term, whenever you're working on your assignments, the literature review is ongoing process. It's like that you would need to do the literature review all the time. Have some plan for yourself. Say that, okay, so after doing this first part for the literature review, in this assignment, you are going to give me the concluding remarks of your literature review. But in the proposal, at the end of this term, I'm going to ask you to give me details of your literature review. So with the, like something that has meat, that you would have, it would have a flow. You would talk about that, for example, with the project that we are doing, someone like, basically literature review is like this. You would say, something similar to my work, to our work has been done based on this paper, and then you're going to have in your reference section of this assignment, you will write down your references of that paper, like you would source it, name the source, and then you would say that, okay, so this is the they did this part of the project, but we are adding this. Or for example, it depends, as I said, it depends on your project for this. But the literature review is very important that you would work on it here, and you see that it has 15 points. It has 2 sections. The first part is that you're going to read the papers, the other reports that they're available, and with the search, you can search through the, like, one of the websites that I use all the time is the Science Direct's website, which it's really good. We have access to the library. Library almost bought the most of the papers for us, so that's a good one with the literature. And the second paragraph The first paragraph was the concluding remark, right? But as I said, like a few minutes ago, I'm gonna ask you to give me a wider like literature review later. But this one is just a concluding remark of the like, let's say you have like 10 to 15 references, and you are gonna give me the like abstract of all of them. You would say this one has happened like this. Try to have like if you could have a flow in your abstract of your literature review, it's going to be really good. You can tell it like a story. Think about it like it's like a story. If you are when I'm reading that, I would say, oh, this one is like this. Oh, on the other hand, this thing happened. So I could connect them in my brain without even knowing the detail of your project, right? So it's going to help. It's going to help me to understand that why your job is important and why with the current literature review, we cannot find the answer of the problem that you're solving right now, right? The next paragraph is important as well. It's about the regulations. So you should have a section in your literature review identifying all of the regulations that you have for your project. It's like that you would name it in the appendices. So here you can see that in appendix A is the references. And let's all of us have APA for our references. I have it somewhere and I can like sample of the APA. Yeah, this is the, even if you Google it, so this is not something specific. So with the, let's have the, for the format of the references, let's have APA. I wrote it down here as well. And then, but if you have questions, please let me know about this. Like, for example, if there's something, you have something from the, for example, if you have question that what's the difference between the print journal article and the electronic journal article when you want to show it in the APA format. So if you have a doubt, I would be glad that we would, I would clarify that for you. So the next one, as I said, is the source of the standards. So with all of the standards and regulations that you will have in your literature review, you would need to write down the source here. These are the like Canadian Standard Associations, like Standard Council of Canada. So I put something here like for the Canadian, American one, and international one. And there are more than this as well. And we have a lot of standards. And these are just the samples that I thought that maybe, for example, American Society for Testing and Materials, many projects we use them. So that's for the standards. And here's some notes on the literature review part, which should be 2 paragraphs. The first one, concluding remark. The second paragraph, as I said, is about the standard and regulations that we would have. So this is assignment number 1, and the due date is next week on the May 22nd. I think it's going to be like on Friday, if I'm not wrong. Yes, next week on Friday. Let me know if you have any questions. We can set up meetings Mondays. And then we can talk about these, all of the things that you would need to add for your, for example, if you are, let's say you added something for your problem statement, but before putting that in your assignments to submit it, you just want to make sure that you're on the correct path. Just shoot me an email and we're gonna, if it's a short answer, I'm just gonna answer you by email. If it's like, that would be good if we meet, maybe we're gonna meet and definitely talk about that. The last thing that I want to say, I use the opportunity here to tell you, is that in the previous video, I encouraged all of you that you would go use the MS Teams. Like, it's a very good platform for your group meetings. You can share the files and everything in it. It's solid, and so by the weekend, this weekend, all of you would have access to your MS Teams. I was just waiting for an approval that I could make the teams and channels for you guys, because we want it to be private, right? So that only the team members and also me, we would have access to your teams. Yeah, that's all for now. Let me know if you have any questions, and take care.